welcome to BrewTV, your one and only beer and brewing TV show located right here in Perth. Every week we'll be exploring the world of beer and brewing in Western Australia, from the home brewer to the professional breweries and everything else in between. And for you cider drinkers and ginger beer lovers, we'll also include you as well. G'day and welcome to BrewTV for another episode. Thanks for all your feedback, it's been great, and a special hello to Jade in Issaquah in Washington in the United States. That's Washington State, where Seattle is, about half an hour to Seattle. Thanks for watching, Jade, via YouTube. We're here at the wonderful Char Char Bull in sunny Fremantle today. Something a little bit different tonight. I have Scott from Menu Magazine.
G'day mate, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad at all.
So tell us, what's Menu Magazine?
It's all about food, beer, wine, cafes and restaurants around Western Australia.
Absolutely fantastic, and I noticed you do a fair bit on West Australian beer and the whole craft scene.
Yeah, look, it was something that we got onto earlier on in the days when I caught up with Phil Gallagher.
Yes.
At that time he was working with Matzos.
Yes.
Eventually went on to Colonial Brewing. And he thought it would be a good idea for us to do something on beer, and it's been an interesting journey.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly given another dimension to just the food scene in WA. Food's usually done to death, isn't it? So it's
there's a lot happening with food. I think people don't really see that a lot is happening with beer. I mean, we've got so many great beers here in Western Australia, and I'm one of the lucky people that get to go around and taste a lot of it.
Eat and taste beer. What a job, folks. What a job. So today is going to be something very interesting. We're doing beer and food matching.
That's correct, yeah. I caught up with Brendan, who's one of the owners here.
Sure.
And that was about a year ago, and he was very interested in getting more involved with the craft brew scene. So we had a lengthy meeting about how he was going to be able to do that. Yep. And since then he's been able to put a few different beers on tap, sample a few and try a few in bottles as well. And he's even gotten to the point where he's even doing some mango sorbets with the Matzos mango beer and the Matzos ginger beer. He's done a sorbet with that as well, and even using the Pipsqueak cider to do a sorbet as well from Little Creatures, and even experimenting with other dishes as well, like mussels and obviously steaks, and making different sauces with beer. So he's definitely shown a real interest.
Great. Well, I look forward to doing some beer and food tasting today. So there you go, folks. Look out for these restaurants in Western Australia that are starting to bring in the local craft beers. You'll be in for a great surprise.
So one of the beers that Char Char Bull's decided to put on is their NSA from Billabong. And what they've tried to match it up with is mussels in a beer broth, which I find quite interesting. So we're going to give that a go and see what it tastes like together. You want to tell us a bit more about the beer?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Nelson Sauvin Ale, as the name suggests, the Nelson Sauvin is the hop set they've used. Now these are a New Zealand hop. The Nelson certainly gives it away. They're quite a strong hop actually. They're very aromatic, and they've got a very unique flavour. Most of the time, it's very rare that you'll actually see it as a dominant hop in an ale. They're usually used for some of the aromas and just some of the subtle flavours. I've certainly made a nice little hop bomb in some of my home brewing using Nelson Sauvin because they are such a nice, gutsy, fruity hop. So it will certainly complement the meal that we're about to get.
So here you go, gents. We
Fantastic.
have local Fremantle
Oh,
mussels,
yeah, very good.
steamed in a beer broth, with some nice crusty cheesy baguette on top.
Beautiful.
And to match with it, we've got the Billabong Brewery's Nelson Sauvin Ale, which is a New Zealand hop. It's nice and fresh and crisp and lively, with a nice slightly bitter finish, so it's going to match with the seafood, not overpower it.
Fantastic. Thanks, Steve.
So when you're eating mussels, I mean, some people will get in there with their fingers. Other people will want to use a knife and a fork. It's really up to you and what you want to do. Obviously, you want to go in there and get a bit of the flavour. Before I really like to get stuck into the beer, I think it's always good to taste the food first, get a bit of a flavour in the mouth, and then mix it up.
Good.
So it's coming up across quite salty. I think the NSA is going to be perfect for sort of taking a bit of that saltiness away.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it should work quite well. So anyway, let's get into the next one, now that the palate's all ready. Alright.
They should work nicely.
Yeah, so as I said, you know,
Fruitiness.
yeah, well, it's a very salty dish, but having the beer with it definitely negates that,
Yep.
which is what you need to do. I mean, most people would try a similar type of dish with a really dry white wine,
Yes, yep.
which will do exactly the same
Exactly,
type of thing.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'd give this the thumbs up.
Good stuff.
Yeah, let's give it a go together, hey?
absolutely. I'm a fingers man. Spot on. Yeah, they've matched that really well. It's good.
Yeah, it definitely does. And when you further get into the dish,
Yep.
you know, obviously we can dip everything in and have a bit of a mixture of different flavours. Obviously we've got, you know, some of your veggies here.
The greens.
And the greens.
Gotta have your greens. Yep.
And I'll try a bit of a mussel on there and see what happens with the cheese, see if that changes the dish even a little bit more.
Yeah, that broth's nice.
Yeah, try. Make sure you try a bit of everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Generally, you've got to remember with a dish, there's a lot of things on a dish these days. Traditionally, a lot of it was put there to kind of make everything look good. But these days, chefs put a lot more effort into making sure that everything on the plate is part of the dish.
Absolutely. Even a simple staple like, you know, mussels in Fremantle was one of the most basic dishes.
The thing I'm really noticing there is when you try the micro herbs with it, adds a little sour taste to it as well.
Yep.
And having it all together, I think that really sets the dish off beautifully, especially with the NSA.
Fantastic.
So probably not for you because I think you drink a bit more beer than me. But I think a lot of people would say this is possibly a little bit too bitter.
Yeah.
I think it's a fantastic beer. But this gives you a really good idea and a good understanding of how beer and food is really starting to match these days.
Yep.
Because this dish here, for me, is very salty.
Yeah.
But when you have these two together, the salt is gone and the bitterness of the beer is gone as well.
Yep. It balances
Which really makes
perfectly,
this, it makes it a fantastic beer and food type of drink.
Absolutely. When I saw the Nelson Sauvin hops there, I was getting a little bit concerned that, you know, starting with a fairly gutsy beer to begin with, as far as the hop character goes. But yeah, it works perfectly. Yeah, spot on.
I was really lucky in my early days of learning how to match beer and food that I was introduced to a match that I thought was just completely and utterly wrong, which was a stout with a chocolate, and it was with a chocolate coated mussels. It sounds completely wrong.
Chocolate coated mussels.
But often what you'll find is that these things are not what you expect. And I guess the key for anyone that's trying to really have fun with mixing beer and food, the same as they do with beer and wine, is to have a bit of fun.
Absolutely.
Make some mistakes and try different things.
Absolutely.
And after a while, you'll think to yourself, wow, that's really bitter. Or that's really sweet. Now, what's going to be the opposite? I think too many people try and match sweet with sweet,
Yes.
and bitter with bitter.
You're right. Yep.
I think the best thing is to go the opposite way.
Yep. Okay. Great.
Cheers.
Fantastic. Cheers.
Thanks for your time,
Thank
mate.
you. So John and Marlon did their first brew a little while ago, and they used one of these things, the Cooper's homebrew kit. That most people are familiar with these, I think. I know I started off using these Cooper's kits because you can get them all over the place in the major supermarkets. But now we're in a real brew shop, we can start to show you the kind of range of kits that you can use if you want to still use a kit. Ralph, I've got a dizzying array of tins here. Can you give me a hand and maybe talk about the options that we've got? We're all familiar with the Cooper stuff, you know, that's okay, and there's a range of them as well, but now we're looking at all of these other ones. I mean, you know, you can go from a lager to a Pilsner, a Cerveza, stout. You know, tell us what they're all about. I know they come from different parts of the world as well.
In terms of sorting out the confusion thing, it's probably best if you're just starting out to think about what you would normally drink in your normal everyday life.
Yep.
So if you normally drink a lager, well, start with a lager.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then you progress to other things like the golden ales, or the Czech Pilsners, or the Bohemian wheats for that matter. So
right.
You've got all sorts of choices in terms of the way you want to go.
Okay, sure. But there's a range of suppliers as well, and I know from my past that I've used to use Morgan's, which is an Australian brand.
Yes, that's right,
Yep.
yes.
Muntons, which is an English brand.
Yep.
So I found them really good, you know, doing the kit and kilo home brewing to replicate those English kind of, maybe an Irish red ale was always a good one from those guys, and the stouts.
Definitely a very good choice,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, okay. And there's a New Zealand one, is that right, Black Rock?
Yeah, Black Rock's New Zealand.
Okay. So they're very high quality malt concentrates, is that right?
Yeah, high quality and reliable.
Reliable, okay. So repeatability is always a good thing in
Yeah.
homebrew, so you know what you're going to get.
Yep.
Okay, all right. And again, they come with their own yeast, like the Cooper's one would do?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, okay. But we brew them exactly the same way as we've described earlier.
Yes, exactly the same attention to the same issues. Yeah.
Okay. And I also see that we can move out of the beer spectrum as well, and there's ginger beers and that kind of stuff these days.
The range is increasing. The ginger beers are very popular.
Yeah.
There's many more ciders available these days, which in the
Right.
past it's been a very limited market, but that's growing by the
Okay.
time.
I've never done a cider, I've got to say.
Yeah, and some of them are even putting blackcurrant and all sorts of additives in them to grow the market.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think the whole craft beer movement is going all the way down to homebrew these days, so people can realise the kind of taste that you can get out of a beer.
Yes, I think it's a culture that's growing beautifully across both sides of the fence in terms of the boutique brewery being enhanced by business, this,
Yeah.
and vice versa.
Yeah.
I think there's a nice combination going on there.
So the novice homebrewer coming here has certainly got a huge choice available to them. You know, if they're a lager drinker, if they're a stout drinker, or anything in between, they're going to be able to get the right tin, the right kind of malt additions,
Yes.
to come up with a really nice beer that sort of conforms to what they like to drink.
And as they progress, they can actually tailor that beer to their own taste,
Right.
with the addition of hops
Yep.
or extra malts or whatever they want to add to it to make their own special concoction.
Yeah, great. Thanks very much, Ralph. Really
Cheers.
good. Thanks.